Hello and welcome back to the AI Marketer's Playbook, where we cover actionable frameworks to help you leverage AI and marketing strategies in your business. I'm Audrey Chia, your host, and today I'm excited to welcome Tim Moylan, an entrepreneur and tech leader with a deep focus on building with AI and video tech. Now, over the years, he has helped grow startups into global businesses, and he has also worked alongside big enterprise companies like Apple and Qantas. Tim is also the creator of the Beyond the Buzz AI newsletter, where he shares practical tips, tutorials, and insights to help professionals like you and I cut through the noise and actually learn how to work with AI. Tim, welcome to the show. Excited to have you.
Thanks, Audrey. It's great to be here. Nice intro. Thanks for the comments.
Awesome. So, Tim, tell us a bit more about yourself. When you first started playing with AI, what was the experience like, and how far back did that go?
Geez, yeah. Well, AI has come so far in the last few years. I think my journey has just exponentially grown over the last years. I got on board in the early days of I guess when ChatGPT came out, and as a technical leader and co-founder of multiple businesses, the idea of using AI to enhance your output has always been an exciting place for me to kind of test the boundaries of what's actually possible. And in the early days, it was kind of just prompting back and forth, and creating documents was always, fun and exciting. And wow, I don't have to write everything from scratch, a good few years ago. But in looking at the AI journey over the last few years since it was kind of released, the last 3 to 6 months has been an explosion of tech across the board that is now helping people not just generate text. It's moved towards image generation and video generation, and what I'm most excited now about, building apps. And so the ability now for a co-founder or any entrepreneur who's looking to launch a business dramatically changes what you can output, because there's so many tools accessible for you to use that can help you on your journey to building something without having to rely on a developer over here and a content creator over there and image generation over there. So it just enables me to do so much more in my capacity to be able to grow and build things, test and measure very quickly, and be able to scale up a business with I guess, minimal effort or less people on board to actually get me to where I want to, or to what I want to achieve.
Yes, I think a lot of listeners also realize the power of AI. And I like what you said about scaling businesses, right? So even for myself as a solopreneur, I think the amount of work or client work that I've been doing has really multiplied, because now I'm able to create my own team of mini AI assistants. So Tim, you also are the founder of a company called Use Case, right? Tell us more about that. And what kinds of real world use cases are there right now?
Yeah, absolutely. The use case is an exciting time for us. It's use case with a K, because these days you can't just get the word use case as a domain name, because every English word has been taken. So use case was born to help people bring in and adopt AI in their companies. And as an AI organization, we help people from all different pillars, from learning about how to use AI through to implementation strategies, through to project management of AI solutions, and then delivery out the other side in terms of helping them, implement AI in their organization. So use case was a really interesting place, because a year ago when we founded the company, we realized that a lot of people needed help in terms of understanding what use cases they could implement in their organization. And it's been an interesting journey as we've built the company now, because we have so many companies now know they just need to implement AI in some capacity, and they need help implementing it in various capacities, whether it's upskilling and training their internal staff, or looking at how they deploy projects out there in their company, or whether it's a transformation project over a good number of months to deliver an uplift to their company in terms of revenue or productivity or whatever the outcome is associated with their organization. So it's been a great time to build at the moment. And when we first started the company, maybe a year ago, we did hire some internal resources to help us build, like developers and operational people. And over the last 3 months, we've now been able to really kind of push back on using external staff or internal staff to help deliver, and look at focusing in on building agents and building systems and operations around the tech that's out there now, And Claude has been an incredible resource for us. And it helps us deliver so much more and build so much more so that we can operate as a business far more efficiently.
Wow. I'm so curious to know, Tim. So you said that companies initially, they don't really know what use cases are there, and then they come to you guys for that support. How will you typically break down a process like that? Because most people won't know what they don't know. From the folks that I had chats with, they know AI is powerful, but they don't even know where to start. So what does that process look like?
Yeah, the discovery process is always an important one. In any organization, everyone has an outcome or a goal that they're looking to achieve. And so we need to go in there and understand, first of all, we do what we call an ignite phase with a company where we will go in and we will find out what problems and what solutions they're trying to achieve and run a mini proof of concept around how do we take your problem and turn that into a solution to deliver an outcome that actually drives value to the organization. And that's generally just a mini week-long project that we run inside a client. But the Ignite phase for us helps us understand more about the customer, what they want to achieve, and then start looking at all the tool stack and everything that they might be using so that we can recommend a good solution to help that company scale. And so that's the quickest way for us to kind of understand what use cases are relevant in that organization and helps us build that relationship on how do we take your company and deliver an ROI out the other side.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So let's make it a bit more tangible for our listeners. Can you give us a company, perhaps, an SME, a more traditional SME, right? That's trying to think of ways to implement AI. What problems should they be looking at, or how should they approach it?
Yeah, look, this is a great one. There's so many different routes I think we can go down with any company looking to implement AI at the moment. And SME, I mean, the biggest thing that probably people are looking at the moment is content generation around marketing, content generation around personal branding. That's a big one on LinkedIn the other day, these days with people wanting to bring on a better brand for themselves as they represent their company. Use cases are, I guess, around productivity inside organizations. That's a huge one because every company at the moment knows they need to be more efficient in terms of people, systems, and processes. And so productivity is a major one. But how could they get started? I guess to answer your question is where do you get started? That is a good question. I'm a big Claude ambassador, and for me, Claude has really been able to accelerate my output of everything from the newsletter that I write in terms of just general content creation. The LinkedIn, my LinkedIn automation. There's a lot of work that happens out in LinkedIn for me. In terms of the company, we've got this mandate in use case where we don't really subscribe to any tools if we can build them ourselves. And so if we're looking at, we just recently built a PowerPoint presentation slide generation deck that allows us to build our own custom branded presentations by just prompting them inside Claude Code and delivering out a beautifully laid out presentation that has that PowerPoint style presentation format to it. And now we can enable ourselves in the team to create presentations together, branded and built inside of our own ecosystem. So we don't necessarily need to subscribe to a PowerPoint license to be able to create presentations. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I think we look at everything that we create internally, and we've now just built our own business operating system, which is a internal OpenClaw machine that handles all of our CRM, all of our task management, all of our contact management, company management, and has AI under the hood, keeping us on track to make sure that we as a team are operating as efficiently as possible. And when you can create your own CRM internally that manages all of your business stack and all of your employees, that becomes a really powerful way of getting started with AI as a startup, because you don't have to fall into the trap of going for these bigger subscriptions or starting with HubSpot or Salesforce or one of these CRMs, and even the lightweight ones out there. They're not customized to your needs. So when you go and use AI to build your own solutions, it becomes far easier to tailor that application to exactly your purpose rather than try and fit into some out of the box solution.
Wow. I think really that element of personalization, right? Being able to build something that's for your company, not your company trying to fit into something that's already built. I think that's a very important or powerful part of AI. Now, I know a lot of our listeners would be curious or interested to find out more about OpenClaw. I think OpenClaw is a term that has been going around. Many people have heard of it, but don't really know how to use it. So could you give us, the listeners a short overview of what it is, what is actually possible, and I think most importantly, for a non-technical person, can they actually use it well enough?
Yeah, definitely. OpenClaw, I think, is incredible, the technology that's coming out, and it's come so far in just the 3 to 4 months that it's been released now. And so at our office, we have 2 Mac Minis now running 2 different OpenClaw devices. But OpenClaw essentially is an AI agent on steroids because it has full access to your terminal in your machine and the ability to create and run commands and act on your behalf. And so as an agent on this separated Mac Mini that we have running, it can access Chrome, it can access emails, we can build code with it, it can access anything that your MacBook or Windows laptop has access to, so that we can implement processes that use certain functions of the laptop and have the ability of an agent take full proactive care over that particular piece of software. So our business operating system was built on OpenClaw. We built a full, as I said, CRM that allows us to manage our company every day. But OpenClaw manages that, and it proactively looks for bugs. It proactively fixes things. It proactively heals itself. It proactively implements features inside of the operating system. And on top of our operating system, we've also got a content generation pipeline that I'm currently building in OpenClaw. And the content generation pipeline is another great use case for our company because we need to drive content through our organization. And there's multiple voices in our company. And so we've loaded up our tone of voice for each individual person in the company. And then we've loaded our marketing plan written by AI into OpenClaw. And so our mission control now keeps us accountable to drive that content through to our social media platforms. And with a calendar, a scheduler, and a tick box on what's actually been done, take a concept through to idea generation, asset generation that we're working on at the moment, and then publishing it out the other side. So OpenClaw has the ability to really become more than just one agent working in your organization. And we have now multiple agents. I think we're up to about 9 agents in our OpenClaw machine, having various different roles that adopts the personality personas of whatever agent it needs to be. And so I've now got a team of 9 agents sitting in my OpenClaw device, and I can see when one agent is doing something, it's flashing, saying I'm working, while another content generation agent might be sitting idle. And so I've got this team of agents all working together with one master agent that controls all of the sub-agents. And so OpenClaw gives you that ability to create virtual teams and have 9 employees working for us in one isolated OpenClaw environment.
Wow, that sounds extremely powerful. I'm sure for someone who's listening for the first time, let's say for me, right, some questions would come to mind. How safe is it? That's number one. And number
Yeah.
2, like how effective is the output, right? For example, when it comes to content, usually what I tend to notice is you might need that human eye to review if the quality of content is good. So given that, the agents are just working, how would you perceive the quality of their output?
Yeah, that's a very fair point because AI has the ability to spit you out anything. You will never get a no answer from AI. It will always give you something. And so the old term garbage in and garbage out is very accurate when it comes to content generation, especially. And so context management is the big, I think, focus this year to make sure that the content that you're generating is actually really good out the other side. And so I can go to any model now and say, give me a post to put on LinkedIn, and it will give you a post to put on LinkedIn. But with the amount of garbage that's coming out on LinkedIn and the term AI slop that everyone's probably heard, you need to make sure that the content that you're generating is on brand for your company, on brand for your tone of voice. And so the context in is so critical. It's more critical than the output, in my personal opinion, because you can always get the output on any model. But if you have a strong tone of voice markdown file, something that's really personal about you, telling the AI your goals around what you're trying to achieve, and making sure that all of that context is loaded up inside the pre-generation, then the output of what you get is going to be far stronger if you have a few pages worth of documents. And I'm not just saying put in like a single paragraph, I'm a marketer for an AI playbook, give me a post. You need to say, I'm Audrey Chia, this is my brand, this is my LinkedIn profile, these are my company goals, these are my personal goals, these are some of the things that I've written in the past before. This is, again, as much context as you can write about me. Now take that and give me a LinkedIn post for this particular topic. And so that output will give you a far better generation than just trying to get something bulk output for the sake of it. And so that's where we really focus on our OpenClaw, is more the pre-generation side, because if you get that right, then you will get far better outputs in terms of quality.
Yeah, definitely. So even as a writer, if I tell my clients also, if you're using any AI tool, treat it like an intern, right? For an intern to be able to learn and understand and craft something, you need to give it enough knowledge. And that is the context that I guess, Tim, you were talking about. So to my second question, right? How safe is it? Would a business be at risk by deploying something like that?
Yeah, look, this is the hot topic at the moment. OpenClaw has so much capability in terms of what we can output. However, the advice at the moment that everyone is giving is run it on an isolated machine, because you're giving an agent access to a machine to operate on your behalf. And there are no guardrails when it comes to OpenClaw. So yes, security is definitely a concern at the moment. And that's why Apple has sold out of Mac Minis worldwide. There's
because of this, I didn't know that.
OpenClaw. Yeah, it's becoming a really tough challenge to even just try and find a Mac Mini at the moment, because everyone wants one to set up with OpenClaw. I was reading a story in China where they're queuing outside of shops, and all of the Apple stores have run out of all Mac Minis. All resellers are putting their prices up because if they have any, they're in hot demand. It's a really interesting device that people have chosen to run a OpenClaw instance on, but it's not going to head to mass market when everyone has to go and buy a Mac Mini to put on their office desktop. So we really, really need to get past that. And I think OpenClaw is fantastic. But what NVIDIA released just a few days ago was NemoClaw. And NemoClaw takes the OpenClaw capabilities and puts the guardrails around it so that you can run it in an environment that is accessible to everyone and allows you to control, to a degree, the security aspect of not letting it go rogue on your laptop and sending emails or accessing your credit information or getting access to your passwords, and containing it in that environment so that you can get it to operate under certain parameters and still achieve the same result. And so OpenClaw has definitely taken the world by storm in the last few months with what it can do, but it has largely been left up to people who want to risk putting it on their own local machine, or people who have separate hardware at the moment. And so NemoClaw, and he just came out from NVIDIA just earlier this week, but it will see some really great traction in time because of its capabilities to put guardrails around it and install it on local hardware.
Wow. I'm so excited to see what happens next, right? Especially when you make a tool a lot more accessible to so many other folks. And I think right now the early adopters are running and sprinting fast. But I think the second wave of folks, once they feel like it's safe enough, they have an environment where they can test it, I think that's really when I think adoption will definitely increase. Tim, you also mentioned that you were a fan of Claude. Now, why Claude over the other tools?
Oh, Claude. I feel like Claude is the second love of my life at the moment. I spend all of my days on Claude. I burn all of my tokens every day on Claude. I love Claude because its capabilities are incredible to help me output and build things. And so I'm a tech guy at heart. I've always been in the tech space, and to build and be able to develop applications and tools, that is where my heart lies at the moment. And Claude Code is just incredible at what it can output in such a short amount of time. So the model for me is exceptional on the development side. On a research side, I think it's also a very strong model as well. Its capabilities around deep analysis and deep research of topics is fantastic. Its hallucination rate is fairly low. And in the last month or two, it's been very relevant that they're quite an organization that takes security seriously and takes privacy seriously. And this whole saga in the US with the Pentagon and the chaos that was happening over there around using AI for military and weapon use, Anthropic has taken, I guess, a higher ground to make sure that they're not going to use their tools for weaponry. And I think that's a great ethics model inside of their company. So I really appreciate that aspect to what I'm using Claude for as well. However, on the flip side, Claude is a little bit expensive to use as well. And so there's plenty of free models out there. There's plenty of cheaper models, but I do certainly love the output for Claude. And for me, the cost outweighs the output of what I can do every month in terms of content generation, competitor research, asset generation, and for me, especially building tools. That's where I think Claude just shines.
Definitely. I think Claude has been really powerful. And a lot of people, even for myself, I used to work on chat because from a marketer's perspective, initially chat had quite a lot of different functions. So it was a little bit ahead. Then once you start building out, different knowledge bases, projects, then chat becomes the default. But right now, I think with Claude, there are a lot more things are possible. What is the main difference do you feel between Claude Chat and Claude Cowork? Can you explain it to a beginner?
Yeah, definitely. And this is also another place that Anthropic really shines in what they've built with the Claude desktop app, because Claude Chat is what everyone probably knows as ChatGPT. It's a chat-based interface where you can chat back and forth and get answers and results, and very good contextual answers too, because the Claude model, I think, is quite strong. Claude Chat is fantastic in what it can actually do, but it's very much just a beginner-friendly chat interface. Claude Cowork, which was released a good few months ago now, is excellent in terms of what it can do for you as an agent inside of a desktop application. And so when stepping back just a little bit, Claude Code came out second, and Claude Code had the ability for developers to get in and develop applications. And for me, just unleashed me to be able to do so much more. But Claude Cowork stepped on top of that and brings in the power of building applications under the hood, but doesn't necessarily need all the development technology to run it in an environment that's not friendly to a non-technical user. And so Claude Cowork has a lot of the power of Claude Code under the hood in a graphical user interface where you can just go and say, create me these assets, or do some competitor analysis on a company, and it will generate all of the documents and the presentations and the code and an interactive website so that you can play around and click into what output it's actually given you. So Cowork, I think, is a really excellent place to be able to use the power of Claude Code without the developer technical setup and the infrastructure needed to run Claude Code, with the ability to create scheduled tasks and run things on a daily or a weekly basis that will give you that proactive agent working on your behalf to deliver you research or competitor analysis or content generation topics or whatever you happen to need. You've got the power of scheduled tasks. And lastly, I think Cowork also brings in the skills aspects of what Claude Code was really great at doing. And so Claude as a general model is excellent, but when you have skills operating inside of Cowork, you end up having a skill that is a highly tailored UI designer or a website auditor or a UX researcher. And that skill can be adopted into your Cowork conversation to enable the output of a specialized skill to give you a very strong context input so that your output is even more stronger. So yeah, coupled with skills, scheduled tasks, and all of the asset generation for Claude Code, it's all wrapped up into Cowork and a very nice, easy to use interface inside of Claude Desktop.
I think if you're a listener and if you're listening to Tim, you're probably going to be like, I need to try it right now. I'm missing out if I'm not on Claude Cowork. So Tim, right, I have two follow-up questions. So for someone new, right, it seems like Claude Cowork is so powerful. Yet at the same time, for me, for example, I ported from ChatGPT. So my only dimension of looking at this tool is chat. So then I'm not sure what would be use cases that are better for Cowork versus use cases that are better for chat. Or should someone just port their entire workflow to Claude Cowork? How would you make that distinction?
Yeah, that's a good question. I start everything in Claude Cowork these days because Claude Cowork has so much more power under the hood to create different assets. And maybe I can share my screen and give you a quick example of of ways that I would use Claude Code to Cowork, and just give you a quick example that might actually help explain the differences.
That would be amazing.
Sure. Let me just share my screen here. So I'm just going to share my entire screen.
No worries. Whatever works best.
Okay, cool. So Claude Cowork sits over here in the Claude desktop app. So mine's loaded with all sorts of stuff. Yours will look a lot prettier if you signed in for the first time and not have a whole bunch of tasks and things that you're working on. Claude Chat is similar to the ChatGPT interface where you can just sign and say, if I'm going to do the example I might give is doing some research actually on your podcast, Audrey. I'm going to do some analysis on where your podcast could be quite relevant, how you could potentially grow your podcast, and what audience you've got, what topics you've talked about over time, and give a context of what the output is for both of these chats. I'm going to start in Claude Chat and say, I want to know some more information about Audrey Chia, AI Marketers Podcast. Give me info on all the latest 64 episodes. I'll just run that just now as a quick example. So Claude Chat is going to be great. It's still going to go out there onto the web. You can see that it's going out and doing some analysis through apple.com, through Spotify. It's probably going to be it's looking at one of your Buzzsprout URLs. It'll probably go to YouTube as well. And it does a great job of using agentic AI search to go out and find probably the answer to what I've just prompted here. And so this will only take a good few seconds. And the output in Claude Chat is always text-based. So you're still going to get a good result here. It's now got enough information. It's building a little interactive widget for us and compiling up some information. So this is good. Might just take a minute. We'll just have to let it run.
And the super interesting part is I've never done this on my end before, so I don't know what the output is going to look like. So I'm curious to know, what is it going to generate?
There we go. And so it's doing some high-level research here, which is actually quite useful. It's taken a little bit longer. It's because you've done 64 episodes already, which is a great start. I can see you started the podcast in 2024, so well done for pushing it for nearly 2 years now.
Wow.
That's great. Your average length of the podcast is 40 minutes.
And that's true. That is true.
That's good. Validate the information. It's now going and doing some topic analysis on what your podcast series have been about over these 64 episodes. And so once we actually start seeing some information here, this is actually probably a good comparison to what I'll show you with Claude Cowork, because it's, what we're seeing here is great, but I just know what we're going to see in the next one, and I'm excited to show you what's next. But we need these 64 to hurry up. Come on.
Yes. Do you find that if you were to run the same search query on, let's say, Chat or Gemini, Do you find that the output varies a lot? Do you prefer like a specific response?
It does, yes. The outputs definitely vary. Yeah, the answer is yes, but the answer is not that there's not, I don't feel like one is better than the other, because you can set up every model to give you certain outputs in certain ways. And it depends on what type of output you want as a person. Some people prefer the output from GPT, and that's fine. I think
Yeah.
ChatGPT has actually some really great output, but it just depends if you as an individual like the output of GPT. Gemini, I also think, has probably one of the deeper knowledge bases, because Gemini is obviously owned by Google. Google also owns YouTube. So all of the context in YouTube has been preloaded into the Gemini models so that you get all the access to everything that's out there in YouTube as well. So you actually have a far wider reach when it comes to Gemini, and a deeper knowledge of the question that you're trying to answer. And Claude, I think, is a little bit in between. So the output really depends on the person. And I probably wouldn't recommend one over the other, but I'm just a fanboy of Claude. That's just me.
Yeah, I can already tell. I think for me, right, it's also learning how to take the skill sets that I've built with ChatGPT, but then figuring out how to best implement it on Claude to make sure it flows seamlessly, but then gives
Yep.
me additional capabilities. I can see it has
Yeah.
loaded.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is actually interesting analysis too. On a chat side, it's given us, all 64 of your episodes. It's given roughly a 1 paragraph breakdown of the date, the length, and then what the actual just general topics are about. And so this is good. Let's give it a good tick of approval. If you wanted to go through all 64, they're all here. And that's what you get, a bunch of text and a decent output. So I just wanted to show you this in context for what I'm going to generate now with Claude Cowork, because this is useful. But let's move on to Cowork. If we jump over to Claude's Cowork, Cowork operates in a very similar capacity, but what it has access to is working in a very specific folder on your laptop. So I am going to bind this one into a folder. I'm just going to choose a folder on my desktop. I'll just choose.
So this is a folder that sits on your desktop, not within Claude itself.
Correct. And this is also the power of Claude Cowork as well. You can work locally on your machine and not send up any information through to the wider models. So anyone who's working in financial documents or sensitive documents or company related documents, you can use the model to make sure that your documents stay on your machine and they don't get uploaded into the cloud. And this is also a really powerful thing that Claude has given us access to in order to keep files on your machine. It can work on your files, but they never get sent off to the bigger world. So really great for local machine work, but also for privacy and security as well. So prior to this call, I actually went and just downloaded the transcripts from all of your 64 episodes. I went to Claude and I just said, give me a transcript of all of Audrey's episodes on LinkedIn. I'm sorry, on YouTube. So I did do a bit of pre-work, and it took 2 minutes to download all of your transcripts, and I put them in a folder here. Just for the sake of time, I won't go and do that again. But I'm going to prompt probably something similar. And this will take about 5 minutes. And in fact, I've already done this actually. So I'll actually just walk through what I did, because then we can just save a bit of time and see the output. And so if I jump over to this one here, this output here, I did a similar prompt. I actually put a much stronger prompt in here, in that I wanted to analyze all, just trying to share this here. Here we go. Analyze all of your 64 podcast transcripts from Audrey's marketing playbook. That was essentially the same prompts that I put in the chat window, but I wanted to do a few things extra in here. I wanted to, first of all, enable a sheet with every episode breakdown. I wanted the episode title, the guest, the topic, anything you discussed, any key frameworks and models that were mentioned inside of your scripts, your podcasts, and any tools and products that were mentioned as well. I wanted to understand the growth frameworks. And so every framework or model that someone had mentioned across all of your episodes, I want to know what framework that was. And I also wanted to, in sheet 3, put in the tools and platforms that everyone has mentioned across all of your podcast episodes. I then want to go and secondary create an interactive HTML dashboard so that I can visually see all of the insights around everything that's happened with your marketing playbook over the last 64 episodes. And I want to break it down by topics and to give me all of the great frameworks, the tools that were mentioned. And you can just use a modern style theme. And lastly, I wanted a growth strategy playbook deck that said, how do you take the top growth frameworks and apply this to your brand? And so I have loaded in a bit of context. I also went to Claude in chat and said, give me a brand context dump of Audrey. And I just pasted in your LinkedIn profile. And so I saved that in just a context file because, as we were talking about earlier, the context of who you are is very important for the output of these documents. So I got that brand context file and I saved it in that folder that we just had a look at up the top there. And I said, apply the top 5 frameworks to Audrey's brand and her audience and her growth goals based on the insights from all of the episodes. And so, and I said, also give me a progress tracker just so I can see where this project is actually up to. And then I ran that prompt, and that prompt took about 10 minutes. It went and analyzed all of your files. It created the project tracker document. It then launched a bunch of parallel agents to look at the 63 different episodes that you have. It then understood everything. It said the transcript was complete. It then went and analyzed the data for any false positives to make sure that it understood what it was actually talking about. It then went and said, now it's got better data quality to work with. And then it started building. It first started building the Excel spreadsheet, and then the HTML dashboard, and then the PowerPoint deck that I asked for in those 3 different tasks above. And then it said, great, all of these 3 deliverables are done. And so it gives me a quick output saying, here's my task analysis spreadsheet, my dashboard, and the growth strategy playbook. And so the brilliant thing about Claude Cowork is that although this is all in text, it has created in that folder on my desktop that we were just looking at, all of these different assets that I asked it to. And so the first one is the spreadsheet analysis, which is analysis spreadsheet here. So if I click on this asset that it's created, it shows me a full spreadsheet of every episode that you have, all 63 of them, what the title was, who the guest was, what the topic was about, the secondary topic, the key frameworks that were mentioned by people inside of your podcast episodes around email marketing or prompt engineering, SEO. It gave me the tools that everyone mentioned inside of your podcast. Looks like everyone has mentioned ChatGPT. Some people will mention Jasper, Stable Diffusion, LinkedIn. And so it went and analyzed every tool that's ever been mentioned through your podcast. It looked at the key takeaway message from all of your episodes, takeaway message number 2 and number 3. So there's a full spreadsheet of just data to start working with. And while that might look interesting, I think the next one is even more interesting, where we go, okay, that's all great on a data level, but show me the dashboard. I actually want to see this on a visual level. And this is where it's actually really cool. And I might just open this in Chrome so that we can you still see this?
Yes.
Now I have a full insights from the marketer's playbook, marketer's playbook across all of your episodes. So similar to what chat gave us this, it didn't give us this, and it didn't give us any of the analysis around it, but we now have 38 frameworks, 56 tools, and of the topics, I can see that on a visual level, all of your topics are around AI. Sorry, a third of your topics are around AI strategy, some roughly 10% in content creation, SEO, B2B marketing, AI adoption. And so all of your topic distribution is set here. I can see the growth frameworks that most people have mentioned. A huge number are mentioning AI agent workflows over your episodes. Personal branding is another big one that pops up in all of your episodes. customer avatars and personas. SEO is another pretty popular one that appears. And then going down the list, we see all the other topics that have been discussed over your episodes. And then not lastly, there's a few more to go, but I see on the framework side, AI agent workflows have appeared in 26 of your episodes. So again, this is just breaking it down to a little bit more of a detailed level. And if we go down just a little bit further, here are the tools that have actually been mentioned. So
Wow.
LinkedIn has been a very big conversation topic across 61 times over your 64 episodes. ChatGPT, 48 over your 64 episodes. YouTube, Gemini, Claude. So I can see that all the AI tools and the social platforms are a hot topic of conversation for you across all of your episodes. And then the tools at a glance. This just gives you a numbers count of all of the tools mentioned across all of your different episodes.
That's
So quite
so
interesting to
crazy.
see.
Wow.
And then also, lastly, it just gives me that full spreadsheet, but in a nice GUI way. So I can go in and search for, I think I saw Charlie Hills was on one of your episodes. So there's Charlie's topic. He was talking about newsletter growth and media growth as well. So that is, in my personal opinion, an excellent output for an AI analysis of your marketer's playbook over the last 64 episodes. And that took roughly 5 minutes to generate.
I am blown away and speechless. My eyes are just like, what is happening? I didn't even know that this was possible. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, this
Wow.
really doesn't take very long as well. And I mean, there's also a growth strategy play deck off the back of this as well. So if you wanted to see the PowerPoint presentation that was actually created, it goes and creates a full presentation on how you could take your playbook and puts it into a nice little presentation and shows you the different frameworks, what agent workflows have been created, your week one plan. Some of the metrics look a bit broken here, but here's your personal branding, framework for launching your personal branding. So it created a lot in terms of a 90-day roadmap and 20 pages for a presentation on how you could grow your AI playbook series.
Wow. This is incredible. And I know it's not like the perfect output, but it gets you 70% of the way, right? And it has done so much of the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Researching, putting it together, making sense of the data. I think that has been a very incredible demonstration of Cowork.
Thank you. I mean, and this is just scratching the surface as well. I mean, there's so many more things I could talk about, but yeah, this is just a quick demo of what's actually possible. And I'll send you some of these assets too, so you can do your own analysis on your playbook.
That is amazing. I'm curious to know, right, Tim, for somebody who is perhaps starting with Cowork, I can see that your prompts are very specific. You have multiple steps to it. So what advice would you give someone who's trying to learn how to operate with Cowork, given that it seems that it requires a different way of thinking almost, a lot more systematic?
That's a good question, actually. So there is plenty of prompt templates out there on the web that you can start with. If you go to Google and search for, I need a prompt to help me do something, there will generally be either a YouTube video or someone that has started a prompt out there. So you can find more detailed prompts that way. The way I like to do it though is goal-orientated prompting. And so I will reverse engineer that and I will say to Claude, my goal is to do analysis on Audrey Chia's podcast episodes. Can you please give me a prompt to analyze all of her episodes, find out what tools everyone's talking about, find out which frameworks people are talking about, and I want to create an HTML dashboard about that. And so then Claude will spit out a prompt very similar to what I just showed you then. And so while that looks like a detailed prompt, the goal-orientated reverse prompt is the best use case for getting a personalized prompt that will be relevant for whatever you're trying to do.
That is such a smart secret hack. I have so many use cases that I'm going to test out after this. You'll just see me on Claude. And then I will have so many things created. But yeah,
your LinkedIn strategy will be changing to Claude Cowork now.
Yeah, no more ChatGPT. But yeah, Tim, thanks so much for sharing that. I think for me, myself, I've learned so much in this process. I think really seeing how you operate with Claude Cowork, right, helps so many of us understand that, hey, this is the potential of it. And we are probably just barely scratching the surface. It's such a powerful tool. So maybe to wrap us off, right? What is perhaps one piece of advice you would give business owners who are trying to integrate AI in their businesses?
Oh, one bit of advice. My one bit of advice was start learning AI. You can do all the research and the reading and watching YouTube, but, and this might be a shameless plug, we actually run workshops on helping people start their AI journey and learn how to build applications. So find something, whether it's one of the workshops that we run or something in your location, find something or a meetup that will actually help you to start on your journey of actually implementing AI and cut out the YouTube tutorials and all the learning aspects, because learning is excellent and very much needed, but nothing beats hands-on experience like we just went through. And get into Claude and don't think I don't understand what I'm trying to achieve here. Just tell AI your outcome. What do you want to do? And AI will guide you through the process to get whatever task you're looking to have done.
Yes, I think even for me, being able to continuously upskill myself, having that growth mindset and saying, I don't know everything, but I'm open enough to learn anything. I
Yeah,
think that mindset
exactly.
always helps. So with that, thank you so much for joining us, Tim. We appreciated your time and insights. Now, who should reach out to you and where can they find you?
Yeah, great. Thanks. It's really great to have me on board. I appreciate your time, Audrey. I'm on LinkedIn. Yeah, find me under Tim Moylan, and the company name is Use Case with a K as well. So yeah, find us on LinkedIn, and you'll find all the channels from there. Or go to our website on www.usecase.ai.
Got it. You heard the man, and it's time for you to check out Claude straight after this podcast. So, thank you folks for tuning in, and don't forget to hit the bell for more actionable AI and marketing insights. We'll see you next week. Take care.